And welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today I'm Mick Sweda. How are you doing?
Very well. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Well, like I was saying before, it's been a while. We've talked a little bit back and forth, but last time we talked about the Bullet Boys. Things have changed, and you're fully focused on your band. And this is it, right? It's a full band, not a project, not a side thing. This is 100%.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
The Hot Summers,
Hot Summers.
is something we've been working on for a long time between Shane Tassart and I, and we finally got the record done, and it's out and available everywhere.
What would you say your sound is? Like, if like who say someone goes, if I like some kind of music, what would I listen to? I have my own ideas, but I want to hear what you think.
Well, the thing that I land on most is heavy pop. I think we definitely are not a heavy metal group by any stretch.
No.
I don't think, I still like to think of us as hard rock, but I like to imagine that we've sort of reached back into our power pop roots.
Oh yeah.
And even though, I don't consider it the power pop I grew up on, I like the idea that it's heavy pop.
To me, I was listening to it. I'm like, man, how would I say describe the band to somebody? Like, oh, if you like this band, you like this band. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
I think it'd be like, and not that you sound like anyone in particular, but like if you like this type of music, I would say if you like Journey and Mr. Big, and a lot of songs that are song structured with good riffs, but really soulful vocals, is what I think makes it stand a little bit different. It stands out, with your
Yeah,
band.
that's fascinating. I land on Journey too. I mean, it's hard for me to, and I know there are new bands out there that are making great music, and it's pop, and melodic and harmonious and all that. But because I haven't heard them all, it's hard for me to compare
Right.
ourselves to anything
Well,
contemporary.
because you're contemporaries, and you have Bullet Boys fans that are a big bulk of your audience, and King Cobra, whatever, are coming over. So they're like, what would they listen to? I mean, that's the genre you still sound great. I think the difference is like with the Bullet Boys, it was like I feel like the vocals and the guitar really traded off back and forth, and that was kind of the song on some levels. Whereas this band is the song. There's good riffs, there's good vocals, but nothing overpowers or competes. It's actually played for the song.
Yeah, and that's kind of what
It's
we've
a
been going
songwriter
for.
thing, is what it is. Feels to me.
Right, right. And people might expect, more from, guitar solos, for example. I'm not really trying to shred or impress anybody with my guitar solos. I'm playing, like you said, for the song,
Mhm.
and I want it to be melodic and something that sort of remains in your psyche for longer than 15 minutes, something that you can hum. So that's what we were going for on this record, more so than say an older King Cobra record.
Right.
Although, some of this material might harken back to the second King Cobra record, which was much more
Melodic.
uh, melodic. Yeah.
I can hear that. I do think it's. And I wouldn't downplay your riffs. It's just they're just not mixed out because you mixed it, right? You produced your album,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
assume. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's just you just don't have it pushed out to the front as much because the more I listen to it, I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that. Kind of like a slow
Oh, right
burn.
on.
And I'm hearing like little riffs here and little finesse here, to complement the song. So
I
it's
love
in
what
there.
somebody said about just putting it in cans and listening to it in headphones. It
Oh
makes
yeah,
it's like a different experience. So
totally.
I've been doing a lot of that myself lately.
I do that with everything. If I get an album, I have like different ways to check it out. Like
Yeah.
I get an early one. I'm sorry. Here's the test. First off, gotta be like listen to it like in a normal day because like most people listen to stuff at the work or doing stuff.
Right.
I'll put on like earbuds if I'm like mowing the yard, and then I'll like listen to it in my car speakers. And I have really good Bose speakers. I'll put it over my ears so I can hear it really good.
Right on.
I play it all different ways, so you have to hear it. You know what I mean? And obviously, yeah, with headset on, you do hear a lot more because this
Well,
is the way it's mixed.
yeah, and it took a long time for me to get this because I'm not an engineer, I'm not a mixer. I'm just doing it, by default. And but at the same time, it's like my baby. So I took a lot of extra effort and it did things that I know a typical engineer wouldn't do. The guy might just say, "Well, that's too much. We don't need that in there." And I'm not going to spend time doing this.
Right.
Whereas I did. So there are a lot of nuances and a lot of
Mhm.
subtleties that perhaps somebody else might not have put in there.
Start to finish, like it's 12 songs, good length album, full solid album. There's no filler songs. I like them all. They really stand out. A lot of them can be just jamming singles too. I mean, right off the bat.
Wow, right on. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that because that's how we felt. That's what we wanted to do. We actually left out a lot of songs that were more like album tracks to us,
Yeah.
and that's what we wanted to avoid. We didn't really want to work on any album tracks. We wanted to make sure that everything could have been a single.
To me, a solid album, even if it's not, I like a good solid album because that way you can listen to it all the way through. If I find there's an album that's like half and half, I find I'll skip through it. I won't listen to the whole thing as much. But you have an album like this where it's solid all the way through. I'll listen to it more because I don't have to stop and rechange the music. It's
Oh,
good.
that's
You listen
cool.
to it all the way through. Yeah. What's really funny is I got the song titles over on the side. You Make Me, the BSC song. That song
Yeah.
is so funny. It's so catchy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we felt like that was, the sort of lighter side that,
Totally.
the album needed. And yeah, I mean, it's a fun song to play too live. And that's kind of how it was generated. It started out as a live tune as opposed to something where you sit down in the studio and,
Right.
there's a difference there, subtly it might be.
It does feel like it'd be a fun song for the crowd to play too.
Yeah. We're hoping it'll go over well.
So what are you guys looking at for a set now? Because I know we were talking before. You're looking at your first gig coming up as a band.
Yeah, well, we've got a surprise from the old days in our sets. We're not. Somebody's been asking if we're playing any Bullet Boys songs. We're not going to.
I think it'd be weird with Shane's voice. It would be weird because you can't compare them. It's apples and oranges. I think their voices are totally different. So it's not fair.
Yeah, well, you might remember that we actually did a few gigs with Shane as Eliza Seton Treachery and did a whole Bullet Boys set, and he did a great job on it. But I remember him saying, like, man, I don't want to scream like that. Like, that's just, there's a lot of screaming involved, I guess, from a singer's standpoint. And he's happy to not be doing that.
He's a really melodic singer. I'm saying that something doesn't seem fair to him because he sings totally differently.
Yeah,
exactly. It's just not fair as a singer to have him try to be compared to somebody else when he's got his own great voice.
And he didn't want to do that, so that's important for us.
Respect.
And we're touching on I don't know how many songs are in the set. I think there's 8, maybe 9 songs in the set, and we're touching all over all bases on this record.
So the band has really been so far has been you two, like But obviously, if you're gonna start playing out and stuff, what are you looking at doing? You gonna have some. You got people coming in, or is it gonna be like a rotating cast, like auxiliary players, and it's just you and Shane are the main members?
Yeah, well, that's how it is. I mean, Shane and I are at this point the band, but we have our friend Brian Kimes coming in, who's been sort of in our circle for a few years now, and then we have a little hidden gem from Northern California. Dylan Soto, he's going to be playing the show with us, and he's a monster player. And he's very young. He's only 21, but he brings a lot of energy and enthusiasm, and really nice cat. So we've got a nice little group going on, and we're looking forward to carrying it forward.
Now, do you have plans, like as far as like touring and stuff? Are you guys starting to like put your feelers out? Do you have like certain people you think, oh, like you'd be good for like opening for like Journey? Like, do certain bands like the feelers should be out for certain styles of music? Or you just kind of like look and just play and.
Yeah, right now we're looking. Obviously, we're sort of putting everything in place at this point. The fact that the record came out when it did, and we kind of not necessarily rushed it or jumped the gun, but it did come out at a time when we didn't really have everything in place, in terms of management and a label and an agent and all that. So we're sort of putting that all together right now as we speak.
Well, luckily though, time has stood still, and no one has an idea of what anything came out or what the date with anything is with COVID.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's people like, I do an album and I saved it and then I released it later, or like they don't know what to do. And it seemed like everything everybody did worked. If they held on to it, they released it later and it worked for them. They played it earlier. They released it during COVID. The fans ate it up because they were at home. Like, I don't think there was actually a wrong way to do it. I think everyone was scared to do it because they felt it would be a flop. But every band has been fine with how they've done it. That I've heard from. So I think you're in a good spot.
Well, I think the rules kind of got thrown out with this pandemic. I know that the album actually was released on the first day of summer, whatever that for whatever that's worth. We just wanted to throw that in as just a fun little fact.
Right.
So that was really that was really it. First day of summer, Hot Summer's record came out, and that's kind of how it ended up working.
What about videos? I know we've had some. Like, what's the plan, the thought process behind?
Well, there are a couple of videos in the works right now. They're being edited as we speak. I'm not sure when they'll be done, but hopefully soon. And I know we've started a video for Batshit Crazy, and we also have one for Everything. There is a
like
video that
That's
exists.
probably one of my favorite. That one,
Oh,
and the
right.
last one. Everything in the last one, I think, right today are my two favorites in the album today.
Oh, right on. Cool.
So
Yeah,
for some reason, it changes though. But
I know.
yeah,
I love that. Right on. Well, yeah. Hopefully, those videos get done soon. We're still looking at adding some more footage. So hopefully in the next month or so.
how is it out there for like for an artist like you? Because like you're in a spot where people are like, well, it's not the Bullet Boys. Like, are the expectations still on you for what you were, or has things finally loosened up enough between people growing up, COVID?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
can we get past the fact that you're not doing that right now and you've moved on,
Yeah.
which is fine.
That's what we're hoping. I mean, it's yeah. It seems like there are two different entities out there, two different demographics. There are the people that love Bullet Boys, and thankfully they're finding that they like our band too. But we aren't necessarily in that Bullet Boys crowd. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the ones that are the fans that like what I do are jumping on board, and it's really
Right.
cool to see. I'm really happy with the response we've gotten.
Well, I think it's because like I think if I had heard the band when I was 20, because I grew up with you guys too, Bullet Boys.
Mhm.
Like now, I'm at a point now where I probably listen to this band instead of the Bullet Boys now because you know what I mean. As you
Yeah,
change
right on.
your level, so I mean, it's like you kind of grew into this band. So I think hopefully the rest of a lot of your audience is the same way, or there's a balance between the two. 'Cause I'm not slagging the Bullet Boys by any means, but I'm saying this is brand new music from you,
Yeah, and
and it's
I would like to
good.
think it's an evolution. I would like to think that this record is a manifestation of what I would have done, with Bullet Boys if I'd had, my uh, my input,
Right.
entirely. I mean, this is definitely a record that I'm very much invested in and involved in, and made a lot of creative decisions. So that's it. That's me.
So Shane's not there, obviously. Can you talk a little bit about Shane? Like, because I don't know much about him. Like,
Well, Shane's been around the music scene for a long time. He actually did what I did early on in my career, which is sort of tour the country on your own and ride around in a bus or a van, and got his start that way, and really sort of honed his craft in that regard. But then when he moved to LA, he played in a couple of different bands, did the same scene that we did, everything
yeah,
from Bizarres to the whiskey and all that. So he's got his experiences, although he never really broke anything wide open. He's had label offers in the past that didn't work out, and he's gotten close. And
but we
what
know that doesn't
happened?
matter. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with talent. At a certain point, getting signed and not signed has nothing to do with talent. So
All right.
the fact you put the time in is all that matters at this point.
Yeah, you do have to be fortunate, and timing is a big element of that. When Jimmy and I were working together on some material, we put out an ad, and Shane answered it. And when he came in, I thought, wow, man, there's something going on immediately here. So we've been buddies ever since. And, we've been through some travails and ups and downs and peaks and valleys and all that. So that's why it took so long to get this record together. But most of that has been ironed out, and we found a real happy place. In fact, when every time he comes to my house, we sit down and come up with something new. And at one point, we just had to say, look, we can't write any more songs. You got to get this record out.
Right.
This will just be an endless songwriting session. So that was
So it's both of you two doing all the songwriting, sharing, and that's it.
yeah. Hmm.
And that's the way it's going to stay. So always have that. Same
Yeah,
sound.
well, he's got a couple of songs on the record. I have a couple that I wrote, but everything is really sort of evenly divided between the two of us, and we've got a great symbiotic
Right.
relationship.
Well, I ask because it's hard nowadays. Because it's digital, and you don't always see the in our day with
Yeah.
cassettes or CDs or whatever. We could open up and see who the songwriters were, and then, whatever. Nowadays, if you go on iTunes or whatever, and your phone's not going to be. Maybe it might be in the lyrics sometimes, but those aren't even always right. The pictures aren't even right half the times. So to
Right.
see who's working on the songs and who's taking credit for what is kind of interesting to see, who's leading the bus on that part.
Yeah, I always enjoyed that too. With Bullet Boys, it was difficult because everything, was written by Bullet Boys, although that wasn't necessarily the case all the time. Um, that's that's one aspect of this band that I think is a lot better.
Right.
You can actually see what is happening with the writing and who's playing what.
And that's a weird problem because if a drummer's not writing, but they're always with the band, and the rest of the guys are getting some royalties,
Mhm.
that's what puts you in a weird spot with the band. So there is I see
Yeah,
sometimes doing that too fairly if that drummer's doing something else too. But I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
Depends.
yeah, yeah. It's
Ha-
it's nice finally to actually be given credit for what's happening.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What about besides this album? What else do you do? Are you doing producing too on the side, or what else have you been working on?
Not really. I've been working on in my studio on my own material. I've been on like a post rock run lately, where I've been listening to a lot of more ambient instrumental material,
Hmm.
and I think I want to work in that direction in terms of my next solo project. Obviously, Hot Summers is my focus right now, and getting gigs and playing out and promoting this record is where I'm at this point. But obviously, I have a short attention span and kind of creatively adventurous. And so obviously, once I get some time to sit in the studio and work on some other material, I want to put that out too. It'll probably be more of a single release thing
Hmm.
than an album, at least for the foreseeable future.
Because I've seen you do so much of your own production work, I was assuming that at some point it's got to be pulling you towards maybe producing some other people too.
Yeah,
Is
I've
that
thought about it. It's really hard for me to find the time because I don't really get enough time to work on things that I want to work on. So pulling someone else in would be difficult for me. I wouldn't want to put anybody in a position where they'd have to sort of wait on me to find the time to do anything.
right?
But I have talked to people. In fact, well, there's nothing to really talk about. But let's just say
That's all right.
I'm
I
been
don't
close
need
to doing that
Yeah,
occasionally.
it was more about just because it's interesting as you work yourself and you I could see you going, you know what? I wonder if I did someone else. And being an artist working with somebody, it's always different when you bring in somebody like a newer talent and you have some skills and besides production, you've been in the business, you got a lot of pointers, a lot of song ideas. You know what I mean? You can kind of help guide somebody young. A lot of artists are starting to do that now too, just because it's just, they want to help out people.
Yeah, and I look forward to doing that. It's something that sort of germinates in my brain all the time, but I just haven't gotten to the point where I can find the time to do that. And I really want to be fully invested and involved,
Right. I
emotionally.
mean, that's fair. I mean, I've heard a lot of artists say that have done it. They go, you know what? I would have loved to have somebody like me.
Yeah,
That says, you know what? I've got nothing. I don't have any skin in the game. I'm literally
yeah,
just want to help you out. You know what I
right,
mean? I want to
right.
give
And
you
that's
the
how I want to
advice
go.
that I didn't have, and that's it. And then I
Yeah.
want you to do well for yourself. And my pleasure is your success.
Yep, and that would be my approach. I know when I was in Bullet Boys, I produced a guy that I really fell in love with in from Phoenix. I loved the way he played. I loved his songs and everything about him. And we brought him to LA and worked on the record. And suddenly I found myself like having him change pickups, and I wasn't really feeling what he was doing in the studio, and I just felt like it needed to be more organic. I think he was using a solid state amp or something, and I I just went about it the wrong way. Like that wasn't really what I should have been doing. It ended up spending too much time trying to make him into something that
He was not.
that he was not at that point. So I can see the error in my ways there, and ended up coming out and sounding great, obviously. But I definitely would take a more hands-off approach and make sure that whatever project came in
Right.
was,
It's something on the same page as you. You don't have to change it. But
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
obviously, you don't have to agree with every kind of music. So I'll hear things. I get things sent to me all the time, and they're like, "You want to put on the show or whatever?" I try helping out other bigger bands and smaller bands. Like I try wedging in between, and I'm like,
hmm,
you guys are fantastic, but it's nothing I'd listen to. You
right,
know, so I'm not gonna. I
yeah,
can't get behind it because I listen to the music here and I really talk about it. You know what I mean? I'm 100%
Right.
invested in each and every I do. So I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I want to be in love with it. Like, I
Right.
was at the record. I mean, I was in love with it, and it was important to me, and I wanted to spend the time on it.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
exciting. So I mean, I love the album. I'd like to see. I hope you guys get to play out more. I mean, I didn't get this one gig. I'd like to see you get on some of these cruises. I mean, I was thinking about it, like with the market now, how it goes, and with everybody just kind of getting back out there again, and where your place would be, you know, and your struggles would be, because it was anybody you know is gonna be like, oh, the Bullet Boys, and they're gonna put it on and be like, that's not the Bullet Boys. And you're like, no, it's
Yeah.
not. Totally not the
Yeah.
Bullet Boys, you know. And some people will be like, that's cool, and some people will be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm kind of into the Bullet Boys. You know what I'm saying? You gotta. I think you have a hard line to sand you might have to face with some people.
Yeah, and as a baby band and a band that doesn't really have a niche, like, we fit in with Monsters on the Mountain, but we're
Totally.
not really that sort of. It's not a nostalgia thing. It's all new
No.
material, and it's cool that they have a bunch of new bands on there that are playing new material. It's great. I love it, and we fit in that regard. But yeah, a lot of the agents out there that are booking bands that are sort of legacy might not have an easy time with us. I mean, we definitely are going to be playing material that isn't familiar, unless people have the record or have heard it on the radio. So yeah, it's an interesting conundrum, and one that we're happy to face, but it's challenging for sure.
Right.
More challenging than, having a band that's had hits in the past.
Oh, the other thing is you may not get also locked into being like, well, we don't do those kind of bands. That's you guys so do that kind of thing. Like your band also doesn't have a history of being a glam band, a metal band, a thrash band. It's
Right.
you're a brand new band with, so it's also just somebody fresh, just didn't
Yep.
have any ideas preconceived.
Yep.
Just-
And it's also a situation where people really just want to jump on a moving train. They don't want to have to push it. You know what I'm saying? They want to see that you've got, a million followers, and, it has to be established for people to really get interested anymore. And that's
Right.
unfortunate.
But I want to say, and what I've learned from doing this, is these followers most of them aren't real half the times. They're bots. And I know some big people that have bots that come, you know too who some of these people
Yeah.
are.
Our
These aren't-
president,
these-
definitely.
yeah, exactly. I'm sticking towards musicians, but yeah.
Yeah.
But these numbers aren't real. They don't translate into clubs. They don't sell tickets. You can
Yeah.
be great in your bedroom playing and have great numbers,
Yep.
There's numbers
Totally.
that crush it. I mean, I get to many people that have like platinum albums, and these kids in their bedrooms have like these huge numbers for doing nothing. And I'm
Yeah.
not knocking them. I mean, that's how the days are. That's what people do for fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
If it
those
helps
numbers-
you, great.
Right, but they shouldn't translate. But the fact that the managers and the PR people are all about the numbers. I mean, because I hear them all the time. That's why it's a pet peeve with me.
Right.
What are your numbers? I'm like,
Right.
really? I
Uh-huh.
go, and I'm like, really? I mean, what are your numbers?
Yeah, exactly. We're more like, well, listen to this. Here's our number. Put it in your ears, and
Right.
and see if you like it. See if you like that more than the numbers. I mean, that's more important to us. So we'll see how it works out. I mean, we definitely are just sort of getting started, and we've got a ways to go on it. But yeah, it ain't going to be about the numbers for us. It's going to be about whether you like the music
Right.
or not.
And that's it. I think the good thing for you is you can get out there and do shows like mine, and get some podcasters behind you. Because not only is this a YouTube, but it's also a podcast, and you've been on some of the other podcasts that are bigger than mine. And you get them behind you, and that's what you need, because
Yeah.
the internet is breaking people, not radio.
Yeah. Exactly.
There are bands that have gotten platinum this year from just the internet. They skipped radio because radio has blown them off,
Yeah.
and they actually broke it through the internet and shows like this.
Oh yeah, the radio game was tough way back when. I mean, you had to bend over backwards and jump through fiery hoops, and even then you weren't guaranteed anything. I know people who are paying big money just to appear on a chart, and you can do it.
Right.
You pay to do that, but that's not really how we want to go about it either.
This doesn't really help you because you're not going to really sustain anything because
Right. Right.
those aren't real numbers.
Right. Totally.
And I can't tell us if I ever listen to radio. Like maybe before my Bluetooth hooks up, and then I listen to what I want.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. But
Exactly.
I want to thank you for being on the show, man. Do a quick little hop on, and I'll have you back on. Down the road. I want to keep promoting and supporting you in this band. It's a very good band.
Well, thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. It's nice to be on with you. It's nice to see you again, and thank you again. I appreciate it.
Very good.